What is the most non-intimacy pleasurable thing you like to do? Story 1. That first few sips of ice-cold water after a long walk home from work. It's like I can feel the cold spreading outwards from my core. And it's like a signal to my body that you can relax now. It's over. Lole. Story 2. Head scratcher. I have one of those wire head scratcher with all the long wire prongs with little plastic tips. As I press it over my head, I get goosebumps. Story 3. Hold hands. I got to do it for the first time lately, and it made time slow down and everything seemed okay for a little while. Story 4. Falling asleep on clean sheets in a cold room after a hot shower, it's like being wrapped in a save game. Story 5. Literally talking to other humans IRL. I've been housebound since COVID, dealing with my dying mother. I can't leave the house for 10 min without getting a text or phone call. We've got hospice care now, so I can breathe a little, but I'm so worn out and feeling isolated. 10 min at the grocery store chatting with people feels like a luxury. Story 6. Full body massage with the perfect pressure and focus on individual pain points, knots, scalp, buttocks, and feet included. Aside from my groin and armpits, I literally mean a full body massage to hit all the tired and overworked muscles. I wish I could get a 3-hour session of this every week, 'cause I'd be in heaven. Story 7. I will be petting my cat. I will make the kissy noise, and they will headbutt my face. They each have their own way of doing it, but it feels so nice to know you are loved and accepted by another species. Story 8. Swimming has to be up there, knowing you're improving your health and physique, but also the calm and serenity of being in the water is amazing. Story 9. Waking up naturally, stress-free, nothing I need to do all day, making a coffee and slowly enjoying it over Netflix or a video game. Oh, and it's raining all day? Heaven. Story 10. I've got poison ivy rash on my forearms at the moment. Running them under hot water in the shower is the closest non-intimacy thing to a climax I've even experienced. Story 11. That moment when you read a book and get more and more absorbed in the story, and the world around you disappears. Time slows down, and there is nothing but me and the rustle of the pages. Magic outside of Hogwarts. Story 12. We just got a kitten, 4 months old and made of springs and cuddles. Spending time with her is instant serotonin. Story 13. You know when the house or your bedroom is a little cold, so you get under the blankets in bed. At first, you're shivering a little bit because it's still chilly, but then you warm up and get comfy. Maybe you take a nap. Maybe you just scroll on your phone. The cool air lingers and it feels nice on your face, but you wouldn't dare get out of bed to start the warming process up all over again. That's what get me. Story 14. Having my head rubbed hair ran through with my wife's fingers or my inner arm tickled gently. So relaxing. Story 15. I take a large dose of mushrooms, turn the lights off, put some music on, and go on a euphoric mental vacation and feel like $1 million for a few weeks afterwards. Story 16. Every now and then, I'll go for a wallow in the mud pond in the cow pasture next door. Probably not the healthiest, but oh boy, does it feel good to just lounge in the mud. Cows to keep you company is a nice little bonus as well. Story 17. When I was a child, my parents had a lot of animals, and therefore a lot of food, including tons of grain. I loved sinking my fingers, then my hand, and finally my upper arm into it. It was an incredibly exciting feeling that I still think about today. Story 18. Taking my time, shaving my legs, then jumping into freshly laundered sheets and rubbing my legs together like a cricket. Story 19. I sing and play old-time mountain music and bluegrass music. It is an indescribable feeling when I'm singing close harmony on a good song with friends. I have asked more than one of my music buddies this question. If you could never have intimacy again or never play music again, which would you choose? Most have said, I want to play music. Story 20. This may sound weird, but here goes. When I hear a woman humming a tune, any tune, it immediately calms me down to the point of making me want to take a nap. And it's weird. It's not just any relaxed feeling, it's almost euphoria. If you've ever gotten a super relaxing massage and fallen asleep on the table, it's exactly like that, except no physical touch required. The humming does it all. Not singing, humming. I have no idea why, but every time I hear a woman humming, I go into some ultra-relaxed state. Hearing a man humming has some relaxing effect, but not to the extent of hearing a female. Hum a tune. Something about the frequencies? I've often looked for audio CDs or tracks of just women humming. Not singing, humming. Alas, there doesn't seem to be any. Story 21. Hearing a new band for the first time that I know I'm gonna freaking love for years to come. Like the first time I heard Mazzy Star, or Portishead, Idols, Model Actress. I live for those moments. Story 22. Having the best cup of coffee in the morning and listening to the birdsong, or having a piece of high-quality dark chocolate. Story 23. Releasing the tension from my back, peeing after holding it in for a long time, releasing muscle knots. Story 24. Waking up early on a Saturday, panicking that you overslept for work, only to realize it's Saturday and you can go back to sleep. Story 25. There's something about a sweet dessert or dessert cocktail that makes my day. I'm not talking about a basic Oreo cookie, but something from an upscale restaurant just hits like nothing else. Story 26. Married father of 4. Being completely alone is very pleasing to me. It's rare, but I jump for joy every time. Story 27. My manicure lady massages my hand at the end of my manicure. It sends shivers of pleasure throughout my whole body. I don't understand how her just rubbing my palm can do that. Story 28. Swing on a swing set. Feel the air between my fingertips when I stick my hand out the window while driving. Late night walks. Hula hooping. Flow art meditation. Story 29. Much to my dismay, I've found that going to bed at a reasonable hour and getting a full night's rest, along with working out regularly, makes me feel fudge awesome LOL. Story 30. Sit in my backyard in a calm morning and drink good coffee with my wife and watch the birds eat at our bird feeder. Story 31. Drinking coffee. I don't care how expensive that shoot is. It's often the highlight of my day. Also, not gonna lie, a shoulder massage is sometimes better than intimacy. Another good one for me is just going out in nature and just being quiet and looking around. Oh, and cuddling with my fluffy husky after a long day, even though I'm pretty sure he'd dislike it. Story 32. I have underwater headphones. My grandma lets me use her hot tub if I keep up with the maintenance. Floating in the tub and getting lost in music is profoundly relaxing and overall feels magical. Story 33. Travel for food. I flew to NY just to get their awesome bagel, and I will gladly not eat ramen so I can fly to Osaka and grab me bowl of ramen from Ichiran. Some things are just better at the original location and can't be replicated. Story 34. pulling off my shoes and letting my feet breathe. Barefoot on soft, cool grass, a good drink, bourbon or scotch at the end of a day, seeing my kids or wife smile. Story 35. I'm on a vacation this week, and the shower head last night was like a warm, magical rain on my body. I've got to buy this shower head. Seems mine is terribly ordinary. Story 36. Taking socks off and walking on grass after wearing shoes for hours. ASMR, music, gasm from some really funky shoot or a classical crescendo. Story 37. Jhana meditation. Allow me to explain, since probably few people know what that is. Let me preface this by saying that I'm a man of science and medicine. Literally, I'm a neurologist and neuroscientist. So I am naturally skeptical, and I follow empirical evidence. Long story short, I became intrigued by the mountain of evidence supporting that certain meditation techniques lead to profound changes in neuroplasticity and can help to alleviate depression and anxiety. There is also an abundance of data, such as via EEG, fMRI, etc., that certain medication techniques lead to true altered states of consciousness. So I tried it. Initially felt nothing, but I acknowledged the scientific evidence and tried it again. Got frustrated. Thought maybe it wasn't for me. But then I stepped away from the studies and listened to the advice of a Buddhist monk and a modern secular meditation instructor, and I followed their advice to attempt to reach an altered state of consciousness, commonly referred to as access concentration. And finally, their advice is what worked. It took a little while, but I was able to do this very early on, like within a week. But I could tell right away that there was something different about this meditation technique, which is basically anapanasati, an ancient mindfulness of breathing technique that stretches back over 2,500 years. But the release it gave me from my daily stress and anxiety is hard to describe. It felt super relaxing, but I was sold on this shoot by this point and I wanted to go deeper. So I kept practicing, and eventually I was able to reach a state that the Buddhists call jhana. Maybe Hindus call it the same, I don't know. You don't have to buy into anything religious to reach it. It's just an altered state of consciousness. It feels like bliss and pure happiness, and an intense body high all rolled into one. As good as intimacy, and possibly even better, to be honest. In fact, it feels like being on a substances like ecstasy or something for the duration that you can maintain it, which is extremely difficult, at least for me, because the moment you try to intellectually analyze it like holy fudge, this is amazing, it fades, and if you crave achieving it, then you won't reach it via meditation. And yet, you have to initially maintain the state via concentration. It seems almost paradoxical to the mind, but in that liminal state of awareness, that's where it arises and then it self-perpetuates to a degree. That is fascinating to me as a neurologist, that it is specifically that state of mind from which the jhana arises. You have to shut your analytical mind down to reach it, but while maintaining intense concentration on a single object of focus, such as the sensation of breath at the nose. Concentration and focus, it turns out, does not require analysis and logic, which is not something we humans normally experience in day-to-day life. Usually, those thought processes are intimately linked. It feels like you are slipping into a natural attractor state for the mind, because over the course of the meditation, the state arises naturally, and the shutting down of it by thinking about it is what feels unnatural. Now I try to meditate at least once a week. I need about 30 minutes to an hour to reach the first jhana. There are multiple levels of jhana described in Buddhist texts, but I can barely go past the first. I'm not that good, but it still feels amazing. After that, I feel the positive after effects of it for days. Story 38. Sensing other people. Perfect example, I like to smell people I like. I know that sounds weird, but hear me out. People have their different smells, and I like smelling other people because it makes me feel less alone. It just affirms that I am, in fact, a person grounded in reality in a room with another person who is also grounded in reality, and everything is fine and normal how it always has been. Especially smelling somebody's scent while you're hugging them, feeling their warm, very much alive body against yours in a comforting embrace just brings peace to my soul. Basically, physical contact of any kind with another human being. The more senses of mine that are filled by the fact that I am in the presence of somebody that I love and care about is very pleasing to me. I'm not touch-starved, you are. Story 39. Making a perfect V60 coffee from a freshly grounded coffee while making a perfect grilled cheese sandwich with hole in the middle for an egg. Story 40. Flossing. Nothing like taking out a brand new flossing pick during my nightly movie before bed and going to town with it. Story 41. Lounging with a good book and snacks. Best days ever. Bonus points if it's outside in a screened-in gazebo. Story 42. Ride bikes. It releases happy chemicals in your brain and gets you outside. After a good long ride, I feel euphoric. Story 43. Showering after a long day or after you're really hot, sweaty from doing something intense like yard work or cleaning the house. Or in my case, chasing a toddler around as he streaks bare naked in the yard. That little bastard is fast. Story 44. Waking up without an alarm, going to the mall or beach with one or two of my friends, then eating dinner at a nice place and getting a good night's rest after that. Story 45. Drinking the first sip of a cold beverage directly out of the freezer after you woke up at night with your mouth feeling dry like a dessert. Story 46. A minute of sunlight throughout the day. It's 95 degrees outside. Sunlight feels so good for a few seconds until I start to sweat, and it gets annoying, so I go back into the air conditioning. And coffee. I used to have eczema when I was younger. It was awful shoot, but it finally got better after years. But putting that shoot under hot water in the shower was the closest thing I knew to a climax. And then when I got in middle school and actually starting orgasming, I would run my skin under hot water and climax at the same time, and my knees would buckle. Story 47. Outside on the porch, listening to banjo hillbilly or country music with a cold glass of iced tea and cigarettes. After a hard day, that was bliss for me. Hello from Somali. Story 48. Standing in the rain after it's not rained in ages. Nothing like that smell you get from the plants and flowers, etc. Petrichor, it's called. Story 49. Cuddling under the stars with my husband in a place with low light pollution so we can, actually see the stars. Story 50. Driving to and from the craft coffee shop and the being in there for 20-30 minutes, small talking each day. I have plenty of good friends, but there's something about the silent, reflective drive on the way there, the cheers-like atmosphere of being there, and the drive home belting the lyrics of a good song that resets a bad day or amplifies a good day. It's insane to spend $4 on an iced Americano every day, 350 days a year or 1,500 a year, but honestly, the ritual and enjoyment it brings is worth it. Story 51. Boats. Fast boats. Nothing like a nice breeze coming off the lake, sun shining on your back, and a pair of big blocks singing behind you. Story 52. Scratching my head, or ideally getting someone else to do it. I was a cat in a previous life, apparently. Story 53. spend money, specifically on my cat, so it doesn't feel like I'm wasting it on myself. It's the thrill of new things without the guilt. Story 54. I don't know how to explain it, but sometimes when I first get in bed after taking a shower, I do this squirmy, happy thing when I get under the blanket. It's almost like a happy dance or a cozy dance lol. Story 55. Friend of mine once said they feel pleasure akin to a mild arousal leaving the office on Fridays. I didn't ask more questions. Story 56. Wait for a gray, rainy day, then order in your favorite Chinese or takeaway place. Blast the AC and turn on Netflix. Then proceed to eat yourself into a food coma. Oh, and don't forget to get some snacks for dessert. Enjoy. Story 57. Honestly, cuddling with my wife and/or daughters and brushing their hair. I can't really explain why. It just feels so very loving and caring. With my wife, it feels intimate. With my girls, it feels special, and I value being able to do it. Story 58. Skydiving. Jumping out of reasonably good airplanes is the most fun you can have with your clothes on. Story 59. There is a flotation center where I live. You get into this sensory deprivation tank, close the door, and float on extremely highly mineralized water for 75 minutes. That. Story 60. I have 2 kids, 3 and 1, a busy job, a long commute, a huge property, and raging ADHD. When my alarm goes off at 6 a.m., it's like a marathon of chaos and work and chores until 7 p.m. Then at 7 p.m., it's like someone added an 800-minute race to the end of the marathon. You're physically, emotionally, and psychologically beat. Now you have to have the hardest and longest hour of your life getting these 2 crotch goblins to bed without giving them childhood trauma. Then when they're finally down, it's like the race captain is like, okay, now you have to cool down with a jog, which is washing all of the dishes. From dinner lunch boxes and remaking lunches. When that's all done, my wife hops in the shower and I roll a fat-ass joint. When she gets out, we plop our jerk on our porch or in our screened-in porch if it's raining and smoke the joint while being fully nonverbal, scrolling on our phones. You might think that's the pleasurable part, and it is, but it's just the foreplay. The pleasurable part is when we come inside, I chug some sort of refreshing drink, grab a snack, and then I can feel the buildup as I get closer to the couch. And with a big crescendo of pleasure, I plop my high jerk on the couch, under a blanket with my snacks. My wife turns on some absolutely trash TV, and I scroll on my phone until one of us falls asleep, like 15 minutes later. It's not much, but knowing I will eventually get to that point keeps me going, and it is genuinely a pleasure release for my wife and I. Story 61. Cooking for my girlfriend. It always turns intimacy, though. It doesn't even have to be elaborate, although sometimes it is. For example, I grow tomatoes and basil, and when I sense her getting a little hangry, I go grab a tomato and some basil leaves and make her little caprese bites. With the more elaborate stuff, I think she has Pavloved herself, seeing me do anything with my apron. Like the moment I even reach for my apron, she will hop off the couch, come into the kitchen and rub her body on me like a cat. She is incredibly adorable. Story 62. Private pictures walking in the woods. We have a nudist nature reserve near us, and it's the best feeling. A decent walk, some lunch, and a sunbathe. It's all so much better private pictures. Story 63. Going flying. There is nothing I enjoy more than going for a quick flight at sunrise or sunset when the winds are calm and the magic hour light is bathing the hills. Story 64. Just the simple act of riding a skateboard. Nothing aggressive or progressive. Just rolling along is therapeutic. Story 65. Rewatching sports highlights of my teams. It's safe to say I've seen Freddie Freeman's WS walk-off grand slam at least 2,000 times, and that's being conservative. Story 66. Taking a shower while my sheets are drying, then taking a nap in the warm, clean sheets bunched up all around me. Story 67. I like to take a Skittle and put it in between two Starbursts. I find that the flavor of the Skittle brings out a similar flavor in the Starburst. And what do I call it? Andy's mouth surprise. Story 68. Watch baseball. Something about sitting in the sun with a beer and a hot dog, the crack of the bat, the smell of the fresh pine tar. Story 69. Playing video games in the morning with a cup of coffee and the rest of the family is still asleep. The peace. Story 70. Slow and controlled eccentric motion as you try to focus and target specific muscle groups. And then the pump afterwards, it's like you just feel the whole control. So just controlling your pump. It feels so great. This is about exercise, not intimacy. Story 71. Substances. Substances combined with watching TV. Used to be hard substances, but I have only been on kratom and plant substance for 2 years now, combined with a Zyn and my favorite YouTube stuff. I prefer to listen to whatever is on and sort of zone out. Not asleep, yet not really awake. Story 72. Probably running. I never described it as pleasurable necessarily, but it is the best thing I do for my mental health. Story 73. Foot massage and whole body massage, head and neck massage. Massage. I have an excellent massage therapist and husband, the only two I'll let massage me. But it always turns my husband on, so I'd rather pay for the non-intimacy option. Story 74. Getting into bed with fresh sheets after a hot shower, shaved legs, and clean pajamas. It's like being reborn. Story 75. Laying on the couch late at night, nobody's awake, under my expensive Jerk Lola blanket, with my cat laying on my chest, purring away, and something cozy on TV. Story 76. Peeling off that perfect layer of dried glue or a face mask in one clean piece feels like my soul is exfoliated too. Story 77. Sleep, hang with my cats, nap with my cats, listen to music, smoke plant substance, dislike that I like it, chill in nature, watch wildlife. Story 78. Sitting on my covered front porch with my dog, especially when it rains, smoking a nice cigar. Bliss. Story 79. Sitting on the couch under a blanket on a rainy story day with the window cracked open, tea, and a book. Story 80. A nice, long, smooth bike or skateboard ride where you are pretty much free to ride with no obstacles and the cool breeze up on you. Story 81. Substances. Nothing else makes me happy in life. I do them sporadically, though, because I want to stay functional. And before anyone says I will learn to enjoy life if I quit, I won't. I was sober for 8 years except for the occasional beer, and the years were hell. At least now I have something to look up for. Thank God opioids aren't a thing here because I would be dead though. I was given morphine in the hospital once, and that is the highlight of my life to this day. Story 82. I love to smoke a joint and throw some pottery in my studio or hand-build pieces outside in the garden. Pot and pots. You can't lose. Story 83. Riding my bike outside literally reminds me of the clip in Happy Gilmore where he's going to his happy place. That's my happy place. Story 84. There have just been some epically fantastic days out sailing. Last summer, I was out on my friend's 50-foot boat off the north coast of Vancouver Island. Conditions were perfect. It was warm, the wind was blowing 15-20 k's off our stern quarter, and we had following seas. I was on the wheel, my friends were tending sail. It was a glorious romp. We were touching 10 knots through the water as we surfed down the swells. Just picture surfing in a 50-foot-long, 35,000-pound boat. Just an incredible day. On my own boat, I've had similar glorious days, and sometimes just that fantastic afternoon in the hammock over the foredeck, drinking a cranberry soda, watching the world go by. Story 85. I love when my cat lies on my back when I'm napping. It's so rare that I truly treasure these moments. Story 86. Showering with a sprayer. Sometimes I get an itch, which for my condition happens pretty much every time I shower, and I turn the sprayer to jet mode and hit that itch spot. Near climax, like feeling. I would do it more, but it's probably doing more harm than good, so I have to refrain myself. Story 87. I got bitten to fudge by multiple insects while camping last weekend, and the bites are all now itching like hell. Scratching the shoot out of them is providing